Hello dear viewers, and welcome back to another episode of A Walk to Work with Whittaker. So today I'm going to be talking about Can You Hear Me? A quick note on a perambulate with Picard. I'm going to do that on the way home from work today, simply because it basically rained for almost 48 hours solid in Sydney over the weekend. Quite torrential, lots of wind. So even with my trusty umbrella, I don't think I would have been able to do a very good Picard video over the weekend, but that will be up later today / tonight, depending on your part of the world. Now, Can You Hear Me? By Charlene James and Chris Chibnall. Just watched it, and I think I need to watch it again, because something about it I found a bit uninvolving. And I can't quite put my finger on why. I can't point to anything in the episode that I thought was badly done, and indeed, it was scary, you know, as they kind of promised it would be. So I don't know quite what that is, so I'm going to focus, as I usually do, on the stuff I liked. So we're given really more character work this week, and that was something I really, really loved, especially the insight to Yaz, because we've had a few hints before that she doesn't have many friends, she doesn't have much of a life outside work, and we're given the implication in this episode that, you know, becoming a police officer saved her from running away from home. And so it's kind of understandable that she throws herself so much into that job and also wants to prove herself so much in it when we first meet her. I like that we got to see more of Sonia, and that Sonia is developed just beyond being a bit of a bratty younger sister, as we kind of saw in Arachnids of the UK. She does have her own personality and her own way of showing love for Yaz. Might have been nice to see Hakim and Nadja, especially Nadja. I like Nadja. But the scenes between Yaz and Sonia I really enjoyed as well. I do wonder what it is they're commemorating, because it doesn't seem to be that they would be commemorating when Yaz returned from running away from home. It seems maybe something more like mourning, and I was thinking it might be Nanny Umbreen. But I think the implication is it's only been a year since last series, so, you know, this is obviously something that's been going on for a few years. Maybe there was some catalyst that made Yaz run away from home, maybe another death in the family, and that's what they're commemorating. And hopefully we find that out later, but rather than frustrating me, it intrigues me, and I want to find out more. We also see Ryan and his friend Tibbo, and I thought their relationship was very well observed as well, especially seeing as, you know, Tibbo doesn't immediately tell Ryan what's going on. You know, they have to spend some time together, and Ryan sort of coaxes it out of him, and Tibbo is afraid of being embarrassed by what he's seen. Graham also gets to chat with one of the bus drivers we saw last year, and that poker game, really, really well shot. And I noticed, and look, this could be a poker thing, because I'm not terribly au fait with poker, but just after the other bus driver asks Graham how he's coping without Grace, Graham starts dealing 4 hands. And I don't know if one of those is meant to be a dealer's hand, but Graham is the dealer. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, especially seeing as the previous game had 3 hands. And I think it's just a little touch like we had in Praxius, that Graham is still dealing with his grief. And I think that is the strongest part of the episode for me. Sun's directly behind me, so I do apologise. The strongest part of the episode for me is something I only realised towards the end of it, which is, oh my god, this episode is about dealing with troubling emotions. It's about dealing with grief and anxiety, and the strength there is in asking other people to help you. It's a bit similar to Vincent and the Doctor in that way, but perhaps with more of a focus on the adventure and less of a focus on the emotion. But I think that's okay. As I talk about this, I'm thinking perhaps I enjoyed this episode more than I thought. Perhaps I just need to watch it again with that central message in mind. Yeah, I can't, as I say, I can't quite put my finger on why I didn't enjoy this one as much as I think it deserves. That's the thing. Because I can't pinpoint something that I'm like, yeah, this is what's wrong with this episode, I kind of know that it's probably me. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with the direction, there's nothing wrong with the performances. Tahira is quite a nice character. Long-time Doctor Who viewers, or actually even short-time Doctor Who viewers who are familiar with the Hartnell era, might of course remember the character Katerina, who was a handmaiden from Troy. Now of course Troy far further back than 14th century Aleppo, but you know, the thought was, oh no, we can't have her because we'll have to explain lots of things to her. Tahira doesn't need any more explanation than a character from the modern day. You know what I mean? She is able to understand what's happening around her, even if she says, oh no, we can't be among the stars. That's impossible. I like the idea that the monsters came from her and therefore can't harm her. And then there is the villain himself, played by Ian Gelder, Zelen, I want to say. And I don't know if his partner is named in dialogue. And I think it's very clever that the story plays on how sympathetic the Doctor tends to be by giving her a prisoner to release. And the Doctor immediately assumes that this is a terrible and heinous punishment and gets her out of there because this figure has been reaching out and asking for help. And I did kind of go, oh, you know, Doctor, maybe you want to ask why this person has been imprisoned, but this is a Doctor who prizes empathy and trust above all other things. But something I appreciate so much is that when, you know, the Doctor is then secured, the villains monologue a bit, and as soon as they go, the Doctor kind of gets this look on her face of, oh, I thought they'd never leave. Does her sort of Jedi trick with the sonic screwdriver, and it's not a simple matter then for her to solve this. You know, it's not reverse the polarity of the neutron flow, it's not blow up the ship. It is using the villain's very precise nature and the manipulation of emotions against them. And that is really very clever. The villains arriving on Earth, for once, right, the villains acknowledge they could take out the whole planet in an instant, but it's just more satisfying to do it slowly. And, you know, it's there so the Doctor has time to get there and stop them, or have Tahira stop them, I should say. But it's also true to their characters. They are sadistic characters, and so we're given a version of sadism that children can understand and be a bit scared by without being too scared by, but it remains true to them. And of course the conclusion of involving Tahira in imprisoning Zelen and the other immortal. They're not Eternals, they're not Guardians, they're not related to the Remnants, despite the use of Ian Gelder. They are Immortals. And I like that there's something slightly different. By employing Tahira's monster, it's tying in with the episode's central theme that you need to get help and you need to ask for help if something is troubling you in this way. It's actually a really good melding of plot and theme, which perhaps wasn't always there in last year's run of episodes. The more I talk about this episode, the more I find I did enjoy it. And yeah, I mean, very competently directed, well written. The expositional moments from Jodie felt better this week than they did in Praxeus. And, absolute standout moment. When the Doctor is succumbing to the nightmares. Also, love the fingers in the ears. It's something that, it's visceral. If you've ever had a friend or so-called friend stick their finger in your ear to try and annoy you, you know how annoying it is. But when the Doctor is in the nightmares and sees the timeless child, I feel like Jodie is playing the temptation of that scene, playing the temptation of finding out what the Master was talking about. But there's no time for that because she's got people to save. And it's not done with a big speech. She doesn't have to say that. Because the thing is, I'm sitting there as an audience member going, go up to that child and find out who she is. But that's not what the Doctor's here for. The Doctor is here to stop the Immortals and save her friends. This is another one of those Doctor Who stories with apparently no deaths. Now you think in the pre-titles, and oh my goodness, we have pre-titles again. You think in the pre-titles that all these people in the hospital had been killed, but then the more senior nurse from the beginning, and again, I didn't quite catch her name, but she's still alive, and the Doctor and Tahira don't find any bodies, so they've all been taken. This is a Doctor Who story, which is really, really scary, with no deaths. It's pretty interesting. We also have the return of Grace, and it's a very small scene, but Sharon D. Clarke, oh my goodness, plays that really coldly and really scarily, and asking Graham, why didn't you save me? And again, Graham doesn't have to say at the end of the episode, I feel responsible for Grace's death. It's just there in the subtext. Now at the end, of course, our three companions seem to be having doubts about continuing their travels. And I'm not sure how I feel about the Doctor having no comforting words for Graham. And her reaction is, let's go off on another adventure. But I think it's not a misstep. I think it's designed to show us that the Doctor thinks in a different way than we do. And put in context that scene of Ryan and Yaz wondering how much longer they can do this, in the trailer, that felt like an moment, whereas here it's more quiet and contemplative. And I like that as well. These companions most of the time show a maturity that I really appreciate when they examine their situation. It kind of comes a bit few and far between. But you know what? Yeah, okay, this is a strong episode. It's at least a 7 out of 10. I'm going to have to rewatch it and, see what I really think of it. But yeah, another strong episode, standalone. It has some references to past villains, like the Toymaker. I laughed when they mentioned the Toymaker. And the Eternals and the Black and White Guardians. But the villain is still something new, something of their ilk, but not the same, not identical. And yeah, so we've had a balance of new and old this year, which works quite well. But let me know what you think down there in the comments. Don't forget to drop me a thumbs up, share and subscribe. It all really helps. I will be back later today with a Perambulate with Picard, but as always, thank you so much for watching.